Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups and limited beliefs. And today I want to review this video with Chris Williamson and the great Andrew Huberman, neuroscientist, Stanford. Guy's a legend. Guy gives really good information. I actually haven't watched this one completely, so this will be a fresh take. I'm really interested in hearing what they have to say. On the surface, to me, I don't think it necessarily matters if you're a woman or a man of who hurts more. Doing this for over 4 years now, with all due respect to the neuroscientist Andrew Huberman and the great Chris Williamson, who's a great interviewer, specializing in this and dealing with breakups, I don't see situations where I'm like, oh, women hurt more, men hurt more. Individual situations are different. What I do notice is if you don't have your life together, if you have money problems, if you have family problems, the breakup hurts more because you just lost an anchor in your life. And so if someone has a lot of things going for them outside of the relationship, they tend to get over it quicker. If they have a lot of support in their life, they tend to get over it quicker. They handle it differently. Now, there's so many intricate nuances involved with an individual. To just say men or women hurt more, I think you're missing the boat here. And maybe you would do a study of 1,000 people and you might come up with that information. But for people to see this and go, oh, yeah, women always hurt more, it's not true in my experience, in my opinion. But let's get into it. So I'm really interested in what they have to say. I have a lot of respect for Andrew Huberman and his opinion. And I'll be doing some more reaction videos because his take is usually a good one. It's objective. It's science-based. Let's get into it.
Had researchers asking participants to rate emotional and physical pain of a breakup. They found that women tend to be more negatively affected by breakups, reporting high levels of both physical and emotional pain. But while breakups hit women the hardest, they tended to recover more fully. Men, on the other hand, rarely fully recovered. I thought that was very interesting. I wasn't too sure what that meant.
Yeah, it's interesting. It also rings true with my experience and my observations. I think this could relate to a number of things, and here I'm painting with a broad brush, right? But how comfortable one is feeling their feelings, is male or female, is going to strongly dictate how quickly one moves through grief. This is the same thing as trauma. The more willing someone is to feel the full depth and intensity of the feelings that they associate with that trauma, the more quickly they're going to move through the trauma. Again, I'm lifting from Paul Conti's words, so these aren't mine, but people use a number of strategies. They use distraction. They use states like, they sublimate to things like anger and avoidance of various kinds in order to not feel the traumatic feelings or not feel the breakup. People will, try and self-soothe with alcohol or try and self-soothe with multiple new partners or whatever it happens to be. It doesn't work. It just extends it because this map of space, time, and closeness needs to be fractured. And the only way to do that is for the brain to have to confront the reality, which is that whether by death or by breakup, they are no longer available. It's like the food on the other side of that wall is gone. It's just not there anymore. Or that the food that was accessible, now there's a wall in between and you will not get through it. And you can see this actually in animal studies that are.
Okay, so right away, this example, it's just not true of all breakups, right? Because it's not that simple. And this is why when people break down breakups like this, and they're not specialized in it, and they haven't dealt with people on it, and they're using studies, they're generalizing. So he's like, oh, it's just, the food's not available on the other side of the wall. The person's never there again. If you've ever been in a breakup, they're not that simple, right? It's not, a lot of times it's like, well, we left on this note. I think I can call her. I think he can call me. We're still in contact. There's so many gray areas involved. And so the idea that you're just done isn't usually the case right away. I do agree 100% with what he said about alcohol. I often tell people when they're having trouble for 2 or 3 months out of a breakup and they're in no contact and they're like, wow, it's just so hard. I tell them, because you're not using alcohol or drugs and you're not just hooking up with random people, you're dealing with it direct, and it's going to take some time. And you got a tunnel to go through to hit the light. So I absolutely agree with that part. The idea that it's just cut and dry, that there's no food on the other side of the wall and you're just done. There's a lot of breakups that have some intricate nuance where you might be able to get back together, where you might share a house together, you share a kid together. There's a lot of variables when you get this general information, and I haven't heard him say yet the difference between women recovering faster than men or women hurting more than men. So let's get back into it.
Kind of hard. They're actually very hard to watch. You'll see the animal perseverate, literally damage its own body trying to get through a barrier to something it's highly motivated to see. People do that post-breakup. They usually do that by talking to everybody about the breakup, which is its own form of perseverating on the motivation. What did I do? What did I do wrong? This and that. And some of that analysis is healthy. Some of it's not. Now, why would one group be more, let's just say, effective at dealing with breakups? It's probably the ability to really feel the full intensity of how sad it is and be able to confront that. And here I'm a male. I've only ever lived in a male body. So all I can tell you is that I think from a very early age, there's an ability that, at least I'm sure it transcends to women too, or extends to women too, but learning to pack down feelings, right? And so when are we really talking about when we're talking about pack down feelings? I'm not a psychologist, but what we learn is top-down control, forebrain to autonomic control. It's the same thing like, I don't want to jump off the high dive, or I don't want to do this public speaking, but I'm gonna kind of like, I'm just gonna force myself, I'm gonna David Goggins it, right? Grief is an autonomic state. We say it has valence, it has negative valence, but it's high levels of autonomic arousal with a negative connotation, because you can be high levels of autonomic arousal with happiness, right? You can be very alert and aroused and happy, you're very alert and aroused and sad. It's very alert and aroused and sad, and yet we learn how to tamp that down. What is tamping down? It's reducing our heart rate. It's going to work each day, being a functional human being. There's a lot of that, rather than allowing ourselves to, sob uncontrollably into a pillow. Some people are better at this. I mean, the late Steve Jobs was a big proponent of scream therapies. He used to go up into the hills behind Stanford. He actually still owns some property back there. He was really into, catharsis, cathartic release of internal state that he felt would allow him to return as a happier, nicer person. He was also kind of well known for screaming at people in the office. So he obviously had a lot pent up inside. So I think the better that we can lean into the emotional states that we fear the most, but in a controlled way where we're not harming ourselves or other people, the better.
Okay, so again, we're not really getting to the point of why women or men hurt more, which was the title of this video. So I'm interested to see when they get to that. I absolutely agree that this is something I've learned, that pent up emotion or holding something back is going to make it grow and stay there, right? And so whether that's scream therapy or crying or just having a good cry, and often I'll tell men it's okay that you're crying, right? It probably would be better if you did it in private, right? Because then you can let it all out and really complete that emotion. And completing emotions is really important. Otherwise they get stored, and that's where trauma is, and you come back to them. So I agree with what he's saying on that level. The idea, again, I'm not sure that he's saying that overall men pack down their feelings more, where women would let those feelings out and that would help them recover from a breakup quicker. Sure, I can go with that. I would say that overall, worldwide, men would not want to release crying, being sad, especially publicly or around their friends. What I'd like to add to that as a breakup coach, someone that coaches people and deals with people, and they come to me to talk about their breakup, which he was talking about earlier, that people talk to everyone, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, is when you do choose to talk to someone, being able to talk to them for an hour, often my coaching sessions go for 2 hours, right? That's completing all those emotions, all those issues, right? And going through them and unpacking it. It really helps people. The opposite of that is talking to a friend for 10 minutes and just giving them snippets of your breakup, and then kind of vaguely listening to you and kind of jabbing in a, well, you can get over it, you're good looking, or something like that. And this is where going to someone and releasing that emotion and having a person that specializes in that really helps. So let's get back into it.
The more that we try and avoid that, and we try and sublimate, or just, and I've done this, so I'm speaking from experience, I would use the anger or the sadness from an experience to just work 10 times longer, 10 times harder. to just get that much more focus. You're taking that autonomic arousal, that narrow aperture and that energy, and you're putting it onto something that moves your life forward. So in some cases that's good because you still need to function. But it can give you here I'll just say, it gave me the illusion that I was working through something because you get all the accoutrements and rewards of hard work. But what you don't do is remap that space-time closeness map. And then I guarantee you find yourself 5 or 10 years later wondering why you're so exhausted or why certain things in life aren't going well. And it's because when they say you haven't dealt with the loss, you never actually allowed yourself to feel the feelings. But once you do, it's like a valve, it releases.
You hear musicians say that the most recent album was shit because...
I just want to touch on that because I think that's a really good point. When he says it's a release valve when you get in touch with those feelings. So let's just say someone breaks up, and man or woman, they go out and they start hooking up on Tinder, and they get a release, right? And a year later, it hits them how much they miss their ex. I think what he's saying is that suppressed feelings that aren't completed, that you haven't dealt with, the hurt of an individual breakup, if you keep that down and you release it a year or two later, you'll feel it, right? And whether you do that up front or you do that a year or two later, you're not aware of that. But what I would say, going back to the topic of do women hurt more than men, I think that what they said in the beginning, women would be able to be more sensitive, i.e. crying, post-breakup, and that's socially accepted in most societies more than a man crying and showing his feelings. So I think that's what he means. Let's get back into it.
Because I didn't have any heartbreak to work through.
Right.
And it is strange how people... It's a difficult thing to pass because a little bit of it is kind of like alchemy, right? A little bit of it is kind of like turning something that's terrible into something that's useful and beautiful. It's fuel. But you're right, it's a hiding away from what it is that you actually need to do, from the work that you need to do. And in a world which is a meritocracy where people want success and status and accolade and fame, and you go, well, enemies and revenge and bitterness, resentment, pretty good motivators. Maybe I could use some of that. Yeah. Maybe I should go out of my way to try and put myself into positions where this motivates me. And working out where that falls on the ledger is a difficult one.
It is, and I think it depends on life stage, and it depends on how one is going to work it out. I mean, the narrative around the shark dive, I mean, even as I say it now, that was 2017 was the second dive. When I think about all that, I think like that was crazy. I was out there studying fear, and I almost was the professor who died studying fear. It would have been a terrible end to the story. What was I doing? Don't do this. But there are times in our life where we feel compelled to take on certain challenges for whatever reason. There's a phrase that doesn't exist in the scientific literature, but it captures two components of physiology that are absolutely factual. Earlier, we talked about limbic friction. As it relates to creative process and sublimation of anger and sadness and creating things from bad events, books, music, etc. The words that come to mind are limbic resonance. The human beings resonate with these extreme states. There aren't many great albums written about a good day walking on a Sunday in the park. Like, it's kind of boring. I mean, there's the beautiful painting Sunday in the Park with George, but I'll be honest, it's beautiful, but it's also kind of boring. You can look at the details of it for a while. People like intensity. The Scream is, people can look at that for a long time, and it speaks to the psychosis of the artist, etc. People don't generally bond through passive, relaxed states unless they've also been through a lot together, right? I mean, you even think about we could talk about this separately if you want, but all of us are here because of the autonomic seesawing that is the reproductive act. It goes from high.
And this is one of the big reasons you really miss your ex, and people will come back to it. It's not always the intimacy. It's coming home from a hard day at work or getting some bad news and not being able to share that with someone that absolutely knows you front and back and that you're so close to. And this is what's really tough post-breakup, if you live together especially. When you come home and you're connected to that person. And what he's saying here, I believe, is you're connected through your traumas, your your bad feelings that you've shared with someone. And like he's mentioning, a lot of good music is based on heartbreak, right? Probably if you went back in time and you checked top singles over time, how many songs are about breakups, right? And so these kind of states and these kind of feelings in human beings, these extreme things, when you share those with your partner and then they're not there post-breakup, I think that's a big part of the breakup too, is that you're sad, you're scared, you're upset, there's uncertainty. And when you usually have these situations, you had your partner to lean on, right? You had your partner to bounce that off of. And now when you're in the breakup, it's like not only have you lost love and intimacy, companionship, but this is the person that you would talk to when you lost love, when you lost a job you were going for, when you had some bad news or you had some trauma. So now you lost your go-to person and you're in the breakup and you have all this uncertainty and it gets really tough. And that's why, like, as he's saying right now, but going back to the title, I'm not sure where it shows that women hurt more than men. Please put in the comments below if you think women hurt more than men in breakups.
Highly aroused.
Is that how you refer to it in your lab?
Yeah, scientists.
Autonomic seesawing.
It is. It's very interesting that the arousal process is one of increase in autonomic arousal in order to get true arousal, but then not so much that it inhibits arousal, then mating behavior, and then the orgasm response in males and females is highly what we call sympathetic, not emotionally. It can be, I suppose, emotionally sympathetic, but from a pure physiology standpoint, it's a hyperactivation of the stress system, even though it has positive valence. And then there's a very quick rebound to the so-called parasympathetic arm of the autonomic nervous system, this deep relaxation, which we don't really know why. I wasn't consulted at the design phase, but we think that post-coital bliss and the kind of relaxing, the desire to not run around a bunch more for most people, was to exchange odorant molecules to increase pair bonding. And even if people aren't trying to pair bond, because people don't always just mate to reproduce, but that some of the molecules that are released in each of the two individuals, oxytocin being the main one, give people a sense of kind of post-coital bliss, and it's a very calm one that creates opportunity for bonding and discussion. There's all like pillow talk. There are other forms of pillow talk too.
Post-nut clarity, Andrew.
But for women, it might be something different, right? Of course, a different name. I only speak in the language of physiology. But for both men and women, this happens. It creates this little orb of closeness that is both physiological but neurochemical too. So what we can say for sure is that whether or not it was in vivo or in a dish, we are all here because two parents, right? A male and a female, unless you're a condor where two females can produce a baby. This has now been shown, right? But as far as we know, where a male and a female reproduce because they each went through this arc of arousal, not too high, arousal, extreme stress, relaxation. That happened separately or together, because in vitro it could be fertilization could be separate. So the test of whether or not we get to reproduce is actually the ability to assuming that people are doing this together and not through in vitro fertilization, is a test of whether or not people can coordinate their autonomic nervous systems. Now there are ways around that and to override it, but by and large, that's the way humans evolved and the way all other animals evolved.
All right, let's get into this real quick. Let's wrap this up. Bottom line is they don't give a lot of information on why do breakups hurt women more than men. Getting into it, my personal belief, please put in the comments what you think. I believe that it's individually based. Probably if you did, research, and when these studies and these research, sometimes they're misleading. I think that women probably show their feelings more, which would inhibit someone to think, wow, this person's crying so much, they're really not dealing with the breakup well. But they're dealing, what he was saying is a woman maybe deals with it up front more. But what they're not taking into account, is it harder on a woman that has a kid, has been divorced before, she's in her 40s, and she, to believe that women have it harder or hurt more, or that men have it harder and hurt more in a breakup, I just don't think that's useful for you when you're in a breakup, and I also think it's a little bit misleading. If someone leans on, oh, hell yeah, that's so true. You're individually based, your situations are different, and I don't think there's a whole lot of truth to that. You probably could find some studies, but I mean, it's It's just not there as far as I'm concerned. What happens is, what I will tell you, like I said, I'm going to reiterate this. I'm going to wrap it up right now. If you have a lot of problems outside of your breakup, like I said, job problems, money problems, traumas from your past, limited beliefs, when you break up, those are going to be amplified and you're going to be alone, and it's going to hurt more because you already don't feel good about yourself and you no longer have that crutch. So those are the people, not women or men, that have more trouble in a breakup. All right. Take care. And if you'd like to visit writemac.com and book a live coaching session, go for it.